Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about why we need to take a much needed, serious, closer look at Kashin Koji's decision to work with Boruto and Shikamaru, because I think we all pretty much agree that Koji, he has been written in a very morally gray perspective, where there are lines that he's not afraid to cross if it means reaching a desired outcome. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video, where we're going to break down why exactly you should be giving Kashin Koji a deeper side eye than you might have originally thought to do, and why what we've seen so far is merely the start of a much bigger plot, one that might unintentionally pave the way for Shibai Otsutsuki. Like usual, there will be some Shinto and Buddhism aspects to look at when digging into all this, so we will reference them as needed. Kashin Koji's use of Shinjutsu powers, better known as 10 directions, and his approach to influencing Boruto Uzumaki and other people around Boruto, it makes him a bit of a paradoxical figure. A clone of Jiraiya, a hero who leans towards the methods more aligned with controlling tendencies similar to those of a tyrant, if we're being honest. In order to understand this, let's unpack each layer of why Kashin Koji is a character Boruto should view and is viewing with skepticism, as the manga is showing us, analyzing both his intentions as well as their, most importantly, unintended consequences. First, we're going to be going with the mistrust due to Shibai Otsutsuki, in particular the Otsutsuki Shinjutsu, and the unpredictability of the Shinjutsu themselves. It's important to remember that Shinjutsu powers, like Kashin Koji's 10 directions, they originate from the Otsutsuki, in particular Shibai. The Otsutsuki are a race whose abilities they transcend human understanding, as seen with Ada's omnipotence, where even the brightest mind, Amato, he misunderstood its true nature. These powers are inherently alien and they are unpredictable, often operating with unintended consequences. For instance, Kashin Koji's 10 directions. While Kashin Koji does have mastery of this ability to a degree, the ability to foresee countless potential futures, it is still rooted in Otsutsuki logic, where it operates beyond human comprehension. His refusal to share critical information with Boruto to avoid altering the correct timeline as he sees it, it mirrors the hubris of figures who presume to wield godlike power without any full understanding of its scope. When you look at the Shinto connection for this part, in Shinto, the kami, the gods basically, they are forces of nature that must be approached with humility and with reverence. Humans trying to control or fully comprehend them often result in chaos or imbalance. Kashin Koji, by attempting to force a particular outcome through Shinjutsu, risks upsetting the natural balance of fate, which is a subplot of Boruto's story. It is a concept tied to Mushibushi, which is interconnection and unity. With the Buddhism parallels, Kashin Koji's actions, they parallel the concept of upaya, which is basically skillful means, having gone wrong. In Buddhism, actions taken to achieve an enlightenment, they must align with ethical principles. By withholding truths and manipulating outcomes, Kashin Koji's well-intentioned methods, they risk veering into the harmful kleshas, which are the afflictions, such as pride and ignorance. However, due to the way that Kashin Koji has been written, being so dead set on sticking to the past that we've seen moving forward, this unintentional set of afflictions may lead to him being unable to understand where he himself went down the wrong way, which by extension drags others like Boruto and Shikamaru who trust him down to a path where they or their loved ones can be harmed due to Kashin Koji's miscalculation. That is where we see some of the differences between Kashin Koji and his parent Jiraiya, two people who are heavily linked to the concept of fate. One views the world through the nurturing of free will, allowing those children of destiny underneath his tutelage to grow into their roles, versus the other is shown forcing Boruto into a role as a tool in order to get to a desired outcome. This now leads us to Kashin Koji's influence on Shikamaru and the very unintended consequences that comes from working with Kashin Koji, particularly when it comes to Shikamaru's character. This comes largely from the danger of the over-reliance on Shinjutsu powers, which is something that we've seen, ironically, from Shikamaru, someone who does not have Shinjutsu powers. So we see this with Shikamaru's reliance on Ada's Semrigan, which are the all-seeing eyes of the past up to the moment of Ada's birth, which as of now is 19 years ago in the past, and everything that's going on in the present. And Kashin Koji's 10 directions, it diminishes a defining characteristic of Shikamaru, which is his absolutely brilliant mind. Shikamaru is basically dulling edge here, and it's kind of like how you have someone who has a sword and they don't sharpen the sword, and so eventually the sword blade itself gets dull. The same thing's happening here. Shikamaru's true strength relies on his ability to craft strategies despite having incomplete information. Over-reliance on omniscient powers, it conditions him to always seek perfect knowledge before acting, dulling his instincts for improvisation. Life's critical moments, oftentimes, they demand leaps of faith. It's a lesson that Naruto himself embodies as Hokage when you look at Naruto's character as a whole. Video essay coming later this year. It's a contrast to Naruto. Naruto's strength as Hokage was his faith in people and his willingness to trust his instincts even in impossible situations. This approach balanced Shikamaru's rationality, ensuring their leadership is adapted to deal with unforeseen challenges. That's why Naruto worked very well as the lead and Shikamaru acted as the other person that was on his side. This also comes into one of the themes of Naruto's story, which is faith versus calculation. We see faith in Naruto, and in Boruto we see calculation. And this also ties into Buddhism. So the Buddhist philosophy, it often emphasizes the importance of faith alongside wisdom. Over-reliance on external tools like Shinjutsu, it inhibits Shikamaru's ability to trust himself or others. It's a crucial aspect of leading in moments of crisis. Shinto perspectives are another thing to look at. So in Shinto, relying too heavily on divine intervention, basically godlike powers in this case, it is viewed as having an imbalance. Humans must actively participate in their fate, embodying the principle of heart and mind, Kokoro if you will, and it emphasizes intuition and sincerity. This also brings us into maintaining singularities of fate as themselves, which is basically a battle of tyranny versus free will. Kashin Koji's mission to ensure Boruto, Ada, and himself remain singularities of fate to stop Jura, it highlights his belief that the correct path, it must be enforced. This mindset, however, directly undermines free will itself. This comes into the question of free will and tyranny. By dictating which choices Boruto can and cannot make, Kashin Koji very subtly mirrors the actions of a tyrant, depriving people of their own autonomy. While his intentions, they are noble, preventing Jura from harvesting the planet for a chakra fruit, his methods, they reduce others to being pawns in a predetermined game. From the Buddhist perspective, Kashin Koji's actions, they conflict with impermanence and with the whole concept of non-self in Buddhism. His rigid enforcement of fate, it denies the fluidity of existence and the interconnectedness of all things. The Shinto perspective now is basically, in Shinto, the natural world thrives on balance and the uncoerced flow of energy itself. By forcing a single outcome, Kashin Koji is disrupting this harmony and risking unforeseen consequences akin to inviting a disruptive or violent spirit, which that can be in the form of someone like Kawaki who goes off the wrong path. That could be someone like Jura. That could be potentially Shibai. That could be someone like Code. The possibilities are endless. And that brings us into the next part, which is Shibai Otsutsuki's potential return here. So the extensive use, as of what we've seen in Boruto, of Shibai Otsutsuki's DNA and his powers, they pose a existential threat of his return when you really think about it. Shibai, he transcended needing physical form, but he still exists, just not on this plane. His body has already been stated to have been left behind. The over-reliance of his abilities, it may create conditions unintentionally for his reemergence. The overuse of divinity is the other thing to look at. So every use of Shibai's powers by Ada, Koji, and etc., it reinforces that his lingering influence is still here on the mortal plane despite him having transcended. If the collective use of Shibai's essence poses a point where it crosses a critical threshold, it could pull his consciousness back into this realm, akin to summoning a deity who should remain dormant, which goes back to the prior points we made from the Shinto perspective. Disrupting harmony, risking unforeseen consequences, akin to inviting a disruptive or violent spirit. This really parallels something in Shinto, which is the concept of kami yorozu. Is a manifestation of a myriad of kami. So invoking divine power repeatedly risks drawing forth a more powerful and an even more uncontrollable presence. The Buddhism parallel, though, this is really where you start looking at the otsutsuki's goal, harvesting chakra fruits and transcending mortality. It parallels the Buddhist warnings of clinging to samsara, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Shibai's transcendence, achieved through destructive means, having eaten so many chakra fruits and reborn so much that he doesn't need a karma seal to exist anymore. It highlights the danger of pursuing enlightenment through selfishness and domination. This is also where we have to start looking at Kashin Koji as being a cautionary hero. Kashin Koji's role as a mentor, it differs differently fundamentally from Jiraiya's, where Jiraiya inspired Naruto to make his own choices and embrace all of his flaws. Kashin Koji seeks to control Boruto's path entirely altogether. This is the whole concept of a hero versus a tyrant. So in shonen, for better or for worse, the heroes, they are defined by their ability to uplift and empower others. Koji's methods, while aimed at saving the whole world, they erode the very freedom and resilience that are very definitive of the heroic leadership that we see even in the form of mentors, especially in classic shonen. I know some of the new age stuff is a little edgier, but for the most part, classic shonen, even the mentors still have a strong moral fiber and sense of right and wrong. They don't often straddle that moral high ground in terms of walking the gray line. When you get to the Buddhist insight, Kashin Koji's approach, it conflicts the Bhagavata's lead ideals, which prioritize compassion and guidance over control. A true mentor leads without binding others to a fixed path altogether. There is a sense of fluidity there. In the Shinto themes, Kashin Koji's manipulation, it contrasts with the Shinto reverence for impurity and purification. By imposing his vision of purity, the correct timeline, the one they're trying to create, he ironically is generating impurity in the form of disrupted harmony. And we see that with how Boruto is clashing with Kashin Koji's suggestions that are being made. While Kashin Koji's intentions, they align with the greater good, his reliance on Otsutsuki's Shinjutsu and his refusal to truly trust in others because he has to be the one that is calling the shots, it places him at odds with the shonen hero archetype even for a mentor. His actions, they risk corrupting the flow of fate, dismissing Shikamaru's strategic brilliance by basically diminishing it, and ultimately potentially inviting Shibai's return. Ultimately, Kashin Koji's journey, it mirrors the pitfalls of overreaching ambition. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers that comes from wielding power without wisdom. Boruto is a symbol of renewal and hope, must eventually challenge Kashin Koji's methods to persevere and preserve the human spirit of agency and resilience. And that goes back to, you guessed it, Naruto, where Naruto's story tells us that shinobi must endure. And Sasuke told Boruto at the end of part 1 that ultimately Boruto's gonna have to walk Naruto's story and he's going to have to learn the lessons Naruto learned. One of the lessons that Naruto learned was that shinobi endure. To get a deeper understanding of just how far Boruto's character has grown, you really want to check out this mega in-depth video breaking down Boruto Part 1 from a thematic perspective, as well as adding in new additional information that the anime didn't show you, but you're probably going to want to watch this one in parts, but highly recommend checking it out.